What's going on, everyone? Here we are with another Total Human Optimization podcast, live with Jamey Jasta, lead singer for Hatebreed. What's going on, Jamey?
What's up, Aubrey? Good to be on. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I know you're a huge MMA fan, and this is like Christmas for MMA fans coming up here in about 2 days. Are you going to be there? Are you going to watch? What's your plan for this weekend's Conor McGregor, Nate Diaz fight?
I wanted to go. I actually switched around some stuff and checked. I had enough miles to get a free flight out there and everything. But they're not even giving fighters seats. There's actual people on the roster of the UFC that can't get seats. This is how hot the ticket is.
Yeah. Have you been to one of the Conor McGregor fights before? Have you been to any of them?
I haven't.
Yeah, it's worth going to for sure. The energy in the arena. I was at the Mendez fight and then the Aldo fight both. The Mendez fight was just out of this world. I mean, they had Sinead O'Connor rising from the audience. You know, it was just absolutely nuts.
I had Aaron Lewis on my podcast right before that. And I was like, damn, I should have had him on like right after it. I would have got a huge boost for my, but that episode actually kind of went viral because he was just talking shit about everyone and everything. And sure enough, he came out for Chad Mendez, which I thought was a funny juxtaposition, which Sinead for Conor and then Aaron Lewis, kind of Mr. America.
It was, man. It was epic. I mean, and it's a good fight too. The toughest fight Conor's been in so far.
For sure. I'm wondering now if Nate is going to watch that and try to implement some of Chad's strategy there, because it definitely worked. I wonder if someone who's in shape or has a full camp, well, not that Nate has a full camp, but he says he was already training, right? Because he had a fight that was supposed to happen with Anthony Pettis, or he didn't sign the contract, and now he got this fight.
Well, the problem with that is that Nate is not nearly as strong and explosive as Chad Mendez. I mean, the idea of Nate being able to land that power double like Chad, I just don't see it happening. I don't think he has the physical strength to drag Conor down into the mat. I mean, I think obviously his jiu-jitsu is likely superior, but getting him there, good luck with that.
Right. He would have to kind of like bait him into get taken into the ground.
Yeah. Pull guard or drag him in or trip him or some weird thing. You may get him down once, but I think, one of the attributes of Conor is he's so physically gifted. All that work he does with Ido Portal and all the, the ground-based training, he's strong in weird areas. That's why when he touches you, you go to sleep, and it's difficult to hold him down. Chad is a different kind of beast. He's got that raw, explosive power, but, Conor is just wiry strong, and I think he's going to be physically dominant over Nate in this fight.
Yeah, he looks even bigger than ever, too. Like, I saw pictures of people posting from this press conference and then from, I think there was some other event that he just did, and he looks ginormous.
Yeah, no, he does. He looks like he's a beast for sure. So what do you think's going to happen? What's the Jamey Jasta prediction here?
I think second round knockout.
Conor.
Yes.
Yeah. That sounds pretty reasonable. So I was, I'm probably in line with that. Has Conor said what he's going to do, by the way, yet? Because he's usually pretty good at just letting us know what he's going to do. So I would defer to him based on his recent track record, but that sounds about good. Do you know if he's predicted anything?
I don't think he has just yet, but I've listened to just about every podcast, radio show. I've read every article this week. Like, I've done nothing but consume everything that's out there about this fight because it's so exciting. Yeah. And so many people are saying round 4 knockout, round 4 TKO, whatever. And I could see that happening, like, because definitely Nate has quite a chin, but I don't think he's been hit by somebody like Conor.
No, I agree. Conor's got that thing, like Chuck Liddell in his prime. It's like that little bit of dynamite where all the bones just stack at the right time. It's like that hitting the golf ball at the sweet spot with the right flex in the club, where some scrawny 150 pounder can drive at 300 yards where I'm struggling to get 220, even though I'm way stronger than him. It's that thing that Conor has where all the timing, all the energy from his feet up through his legs, the twist and the stacking of the bones just hits your jaw at the right moment. And it's night.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this movement stuff that he's doing makes sense. And I think the power behind some of this movement that you see Ido Portal doing, if imagine the type of power it takes just to get into these weird positions where you could, have your whole body levitating just based off your wrist or your right. Like he does these weird like palm.
Yep.
He plants his palm and then he can lift his whole body. So that type of power, if he's planting his heel and landing that left or whatever, however he's twisting his torso, we don't know, right? Because this is kind of the first time it's been brought to light ever since I've been watching MMA. This is the first time I've ever heard anybody talking about movement aside from the last Conor fight.
Right. And now, I know I picked up a similarity over a year ago and made a post about it and got flamed like crazy. I was like, Conor's going to be a champion that's going to last a long time. And I picked up a lot of things. One, the most important is his belief system, and we can get into that a little bit too. But the other was, I noticed that this was even before I knew he was training with Ido Portal. I noticed that the way John Jones moved into the ring was very similar to Conor. And it's that, we have the On an Academy here, and we, really push the ground-based training. And I know firsthand how effective it is. And both of those guys kind of slink into the ring like jaguars, and you can I just caught this similarity. Like they were both on to this same kind of truth, which is the more contact you have that's where your power is. Imagine trying to throw punches in space, they're just going to be all arm. They're not going to work. Like the more contact you have with the ground, the more that your body moves in these patterns that it's meant to move, the more power you're going to be able to generate, the harder an animal you're going to be to deal with. And I think, I don't know how much training, obviously Jones has been doing a lot of powerlifting, but you can notice that that same way that they kind of move around, move into the ring. And that's a scary beast. And I think a lot of fighters are figuring that out now.
For sure. And even if you watch some of the recent fights, like he has this way of just pinpoint accuracy of hitting these weird little soft parts. And if you ever have been cracked in like these weird areas ahead, like I watched in slow motion how he cracked Dustin Poirier. And a lot of people have said, it was behind the, what do they call that? Like the
behind the ear.
Yeah. But they said, it was the back of the head, but it's not. Yeah. If you watch it, it's like right in this this area where you even hit yourself lightly there. You're going to feel weird. And he just has that way of just connecting with that pinpoint accuracy. And so John Jones does it as well, but not like he doesn't have the knockout power in that division like Conor has in his.
No, definitely not. I have a funny story about hitting yourself in that embarrassing story about hitting yourself in that part of your head. When I learned how quickly you could get knocked out from that spot, I just got a gift of this giant Conan the Barbarian sword. This sword has big dragons on it and this shit. And I was working out in my garage and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go out there and swing the sword around like fucking Conan. So I get out to the driveway and I'm just whipping it around like two-hand sword style, and the hilt comes as I'm whipping it around my head. The hilt comes and clips me right in that same spot you were mentioning, like right above and behind the ear, and it just dropped me. It was full self knockout down to one knee, sword clanks to the ground, and I was like, oh my god, if this was caught on tape, I would definitely make ridiculousness, like for sure, 100% on ridiculousness.
Do you still have that sword, I hope?
I still do, but I'm not as keen about whipping it around in the driveway anymore and pretending to be Conan.
That's so funny that you said that, because I did the same thing, but with nunchucks. Remember, you could order the nunchucks in the back of comics and the back of like Mad Magazine or whatever. I did that, and I ordered these wood ones they were kind of like weak, but the wood was just hard enough where doing that, cracking myself and being like totally out of it.
I think that's part of the rite of passage for any kids that like to play.
Yeah, ordering weapons and then injuring yourself with them.
Yeah, I used to get this thing called the Edge catalog, which had like all of these like ninja weapons and blowguns, and I was a little throwing stars for sure. I still at my house now. I have this big giant throwing star and throwing knife and hatchet target that's pretty dope. So I haven't really completely got it out of my system.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, so all right, so we're talking. One of the things I think for Conor, his ability to land those strikes so precisely is mental game. He's so loose because he doesn't have any fear, and he doesn't have any fear because his belief is at straight 100%. Like he doesn't even entertain the thought of losing. It's not even part of his mental framework. So in that, without any fear, you don't have to push. You're just, that your traps are always going to be full and you're going to win. It's just a matter of when. And I saw that put to the test when I was at that Mendes fight, because Mendes has his back to the ground, his head's on the canvas. He's bouncing elbows off his forehead. And Conor, not even for a second, wavered in his eyes like, uh-oh. There was not even like a little moment of, oh, shit, this isn't good. He was just talking shit to him the entire time. And I was like, this guy is on another fucking level. I mean, when you're getting elbows bounced off your head and you're bleeding and you have zero doubt still, you're a different kind of beast.
Also, I think there's something that he does with the way he baits the opponent into the placement where they stand in the cage. Because if you've seen the Marcus Scrimmage fight, if you've seen the Dennis Seaver fight, and even in the Chad Mendes fight, they're all in this similar trajectory where they lose. And I'm like, is that part of his plan? Is there something about where the door is in comparison to where people get hemmed up, or something happens where he cuts off the space?
Yeah, I think he's planning all of that. And he also gets people to do things that they're not comfortable with just because they're so fucking mad at him by the time they get into the ring. And that's what makes this fight really interesting to me, is because I think Nate is going to be the least mind-fucked of any opponent that he's going to fight in a long time. I mean, RDA probably was going to be mostly okay. That was going to be a really tough fight too. But, Nate is just, he's got his own mental thing going on. And I'd be surprised if he came out. I mean, that's what the Diaz brothers do to other people. They get, and I think he's going to be a little bit inoculated to the Conor rage that causes people to freak out in there.
Totally. And now I think there's even more interest in this fight because people want to see that. That's like the draw now. People are like when I told like casual fans who they only know the Kimbo Slices and the Nate Diaz's and the Chuck Liddells, like people who are like, oh, what's going on now? There's so many events. I can't keep up with it. They know Conor. Like my father lives in Ireland, and they just, the people in Ireland, they're just like, oh, are you going to watch Conor? They don't even say, oh, are you going to watch the UFC? Oh, what are you doing? Are you going to watch Conor? And so those people combined with all these Nate Diaz fans who want to see if he can, talk the trash in the cage and back it up. This could be the biggest one yet.
Yeah, it's going to be insane. So on the Nate Diaz side, I was hanging out with Joe Schilling this weekend, which was super fun. He's a great dude.
Oh, he went to Glory.
I went to Glory. So I
watched it. I watched it on Fight Pass.
Yeah, for sure. That was a wild night.
Did you stay for the end with the guy who quit?
Yeah, Marcus and Simon Marcus and Artem Levin. That was really, really weird.
That wasn't on Fight Pass though, right?
No, that was the one I was on TV.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was the World Championship fight where Artem Levin just quit, in the middle of it because he was mad at the judge for taking points away for holding. It was a really weird thing. Did you see that one?
No, I've been hearing everybody talking about it. I'm like, how did I miss that? Because I figured out how to set up Fight Pass through my Xbox, and then I couldn't figure out how to get back to my TV.
Technology problems. Yeah. It was, so they had the Fight Pass fights, which ended with the Joe Schilling fight, and then they had this whole other 5 fights, a tournament where, what was the name, JD won the tournament, and then they had that Simon Marcus Artem Levin World Championship fight, and it was just weird. Artem was getting shit from the ref for holding, and the ref took a point, and then Artem wanted to quit right then, and Simon Marcus just popped him in the head, you're not quitting, bitch. And just stroked him, and then they started really scrapping. It was a great round after that. They were fired up, and then in the next round, the ref took another point, and he just quit, even though there was 2.5 rounds to go. I'm like, how are you going to quit in kickboxing? Especially he was doing all right. He kicked him in the head twice. He had him hurt a couple times. It's not like he was getting dominated. He could have knocked him out. It was just one of those things where like complete mental failure, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Should have the alpha brain, man. He should have been on the
No, maybe it might have needed some ayahuasca to sort out those problems. I don't know if Alpha Brain would have taken care of that one. But yeah, that was really interesting. So anyway, so I'm hanging with Joe Schilling following day, and he's talking, like he trains a lot with Nate and Nick, and he was talking about Nate, and obviously Joe is one of the greatest kickboxers of all time. And he was talking about, he's like, man, you don't understand. Like if I miss a beat when I'm sparring with Nate, if I miss a beat, all I see is flashes. Like if I get my timing off, you know, all I see is flashes, and all I hear is Nate going, "Come on, bitch, what's up, bitch?" You know, just talking to him. And the punches aren't that hard, but it's just like flashes of light. Like he said, it's like a strobe light. You know, like you're in this like hellish strobe light where everywhere you're moving, you're fine. You know, you're just seeing a shot hit you in the head, and it's, you know, and obviously if he gets the timing right, then, you know, and comes out, he's all right. He does really well against him, obviously, if he's sparring. But that was really interesting to hear that someone of Joe Schilling's level, you know, Nate can put that Stockton slap on him, and he can get in trouble.
Yeah, that's what Nate's going to want to do, right? The dirty boxing, get him in the clinch, get him uncomfortable, hit him with elbows. It's going to be really interesting. He's so fast and he's so elusive. I don't know if there's really going to be that many opportunities to do that, but this is why it's so exciting. Sure.
Or keep him at range. You know, I mean, he's got a couple inches on the reach, I think, and keep him at range and just keep him at the end of his punches, you know,
But is Conor longer than everybody thinks, though? I feel like
he fights super long. So absolutely. But so does Nate. Both these guys, that's one of their advantages. I mean, they're hitting people, you know, a lot of people like Mendez, for example. I mean, he doesn't have a big reach, but he's effectively shortening his reach all the time with the way he's throwing punches, you know, these looping punches where when he's hitting, his arm is, you know, generally in some kind of bent angle, you know, some kind of angle where he's throwing a hook or something like that. Whereas Conor and Nate, they're hitting people right at the end of their arm, you know, where everything is stacked up. So they end up fighting longer.
The great Brian Stan said, I hope I'm quoting this correctly. He said that this is the first time he's heard Nate say it's kill or be killed. So that in a way he's already saying it is a possibility that he could be the one being killed, which he's never like admitted to in any sort of pre-fight buildup. So that made me think of that. I'm like, is he reading into that too much, or is he already kind of accepting that it's either like he goes in there and just gets the finish or gets finished? He's not talking about a decision, not talking about, you know, grinding out a win, pointing, you know, getting points or whatever. He's talking about kill or be killed.
That is interesting. Yeah. I mean, any time that someone's mindset dramatically changes, it's probably trouble. You know, is what I would say. Like, it's probably, you would probably want Nate to just be like, oh man, it's just another thing. It's just another dude. You know, like that would probably yield his best performance, but we'll see. I mean, that's why this thing is fucking Christmas. I mean, it's like, it's literally, this is Christmas for an MMA fan.
It really is. And now someone was saying, oh, well, what about Diego versus Jim Miller? And I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, that's like the prelims. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Is that true? I just heard that this morning.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of good fights. And of course, obviously the co-main event, I mean, that's going to be pretty sick as well. Holly versus Misha, first time defending the belt.
Yes. Oh, wow. See, Misha, though, I don't know. I just don't see her. I don't see her winning that. I know Holly's been knocked out before, and Misha's boxing is good, but her wrestling is better. But we saw with the Ronda fight, Holly's able to stop the takedown. And there was even a point where she, like, I guess, was in danger of getting armbarred, and she reversed that and got up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is going to be a tougher fight for Holly at this point, but I still think she's superior. I also have a theory that no girl with boobs the size of Misha will ever be champion. That's my solid Aubrey Marcus theory, because boobs are in no way helpful to the athlete's body. So you basically got a couple pounds of dead weight there. You know, you need all those pounds to be champion. You know, you need that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree, because I feel like the last 2 months I've eaten so badly that I'm wearing like a 10-pound jacket, and I just want to take it off, but I can't. So I'd imagine the boobs feel like that.
Yeah, it's like a little mini weight vest that you got to deal with. You know, it's definitely a hindrance. But
That's a good theory. See, I think someone was saying that around the Kat Zingano fight where she lost in like 14 seconds, and I could believe that. The boobs, it was the boobs. They got in the way.
I mean, it's like they're fighting in a mini weight class lower. You know, it's like she's fighting at 130 minus the boobs. You know, and Holly's fighting at a strong 135. You know, it makes a difference.
I'm gonna call it another head kick KO win.
Oh man, it very well could be. I think it could also be a decision. I think that's, you know, because Holly, one of the things she capitalized on was Ronda's aggression, you know, and if you look at Holly's other fights, then, you know, she was pretty conservative and wasn't that aggressive in going after people. And I think Misha is going to also be a little bit cautious. So I think Holly, unfortunately, I think my prediction is it's going to be a little bit of a boring fight. I think it's going to kind of drag out and be a decision for Holly. I hope not. I hope they fucking tangle and go at each other. That'd be great. And maybe now that Holly's the champion, she's more comfortable. She'll be more aggressive and like press the action. But I think either way, Holly's going to win.
Well, if Misha did pull it off, right? Ronda's not available to fight until November. Yeah. So she would have to fight again. And who else is out there that really poses a threat? So it's like there is that added motivation, but I just don't see her winning. I feel like Holly wins, fights whoever's next in line. That's an even easier fight, and then gets the huge rematch check in November.
Yeah, I think that's right. I had an interesting talk with Oscar De La Hoya in Cabo San Lucas, and Oscar follows Ronda pretty well. And he was saying that he was certain that in the rematch, Ronda was going to win just because of the mindset that she has as a champion. And that was interesting to me because I would have been certain that Holly was going to win in a rematch. But I don't know. Maybe it's just like I have a lot of respect for Oscar, even though, you know, he's a great fighter. He may not be able to predict fights. But I thought that was interesting, you know, what he said. He's like, yeah, she's got that champion mindset, and she's going to come back and win. What do you think is going to happen in that rematch?
I don't see her coming back and winning.
I feel
like anytime you have a better option in life than getting kicked brutally in the face, and think about the checks that are out there that can be made. I mean, I'm in the freaking music industry, which is like a constant decline, and still it's way more than 99% of the fighters, I would say, make if you were to get a hit record. Now, I don't know what it's like in having, you know, parts in movies or endorsement deal. I see every Metro PCS commercial with Ronda on it. Is that I guess contingent upon being champ? No, because the ads are still running. She's still getting the parts. She's still getting the stuff. So it's like,
I don't know. They canceled Roadhouse when she lost.
That
was going to be that was going to be her big. That's what I heard, at least. And someone should fact check me on that. But yeah, she was going to star in the remake of Roadhouse, and she lost the belt, got beat up, and like, never mind.
I mean, unless you're a fighter that can be more than just a fighter, right? Like if you have this charisma where you can go and do other things and get multiple lanes, multiple revenue streams. There's aside from just being that badass that dudes look up to and girls want to fuck, there's a lot of other career opportunities where you can still be that dude.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, you know, the interesting thing though for Ronda is she has all this other stuff going, but then you listen to her on the Ellen show and she's like, yeah, I wanted to kill myself after the fight. So it's not like she's like, yeah, you know what, life is still good. Like I'm still counting my blessings. You know, she's crazy a little bit. And that's what made her so incredible as an athlete, is that she wants to be the best. And that counts so much more for her than anything else. So, you know, you're not dealing with your average Jane here. You know, she's a different beast. She's not going to be happy with that money in those movie roles and stuff. She wants to smash everyone and be the most dominant bitch.
And be the baddest bitch in the room when she walks in at any event or any party. Mm-hmm. And be like, no, she was only defeated once, as opposed to
Yeah, and then she avenged that. She avenged that loss. Like all of the black marks have been taken care of on the record. So,
but do we know the full extent of the damage? Like, if I feel like anyone who's ever been grievously injured like that, like that was a brutal knockout. You're concussed. They said her jaw wasn't broken, right? But it seemed as if something was up.
It wasn't not broken. somewhere in between.
Right. So that the chances of that happening again, or then, with her knees, right? Her knees are suspect.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I know that for sure she got concussed, though. I mean, that definitely happened. But, she hasn't been in a lot of wars necessarily where that's happened a lot. It's not like you're looking at Robbie Lawler, and being like, God damn, how much more does that brain have to give? I mean, that was particularly brutal, but at least, you can't count 10 more of those, that she's been in.
Right. No, that's true. I mean, Oscar too. That's interesting that he said that, because he's definitely someone who's taken a lot of blows to the head and was still willing to go back. But boxers make so much more than MMA fighters. I mean, there's a big difference there, and boxers are getting all sorts of different revenue streams, and it's almost, boxing is like rock and roll, and MMA is still like heavy metal. Like, we're like, in heavy metal, we are like the MMA of music. Like, if you're not into it, if you don't know about it, people are like, oh, is that stuff where they're hitting each other
right.
in the crowd? Yes, that's what that is.
Right. That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, so the discrepancy, I mean, but you guys are still selling out big shows and doing that. I mean, you look out in those videos, you got a sea of people pretty fired up. But it's just not the iTunes downloads, and it's not that kind of mainstream presence, I guess. Right.
Right. At the Grammys, like when we got nominated for a Grammy, you go to like the other building. It's like down the road.
The kids' table.
Yeah. And then you're in there with like, best Hawaiian flute performance, and those are the other categories.
Best Hawaiian flute performance. Awesome. I want to know that, by the way. If that's a category, someone please send that to me.
I think it was the guy. It might have just been like the best
music.
Whatever the group of instruments that the flute falls into, it might have just been that, and the guy was from Hawaii, but it actually was amazing.
Yeah. So I was listening to some of your tracks on the way, and I mentioned that when we first started talking, and I was getting fired up in the car. But one thing I noticed, and I only listened to a couple of them today and really paid attention, because I've obviously heard your music before, but not really paid that much attention to which band it was. I just kind of put on like that heavy playlist every once in a while when I'm moving heavy weight. But actually, like, listening to Hatebreed and listening to the lyrics, despite the intensity of the tone, like, a lot of the lyrics are pretty inspirational. Like, I was like, man, that's pretty fucking cool.
Right on. No, I'm glad you checked it out. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think for the last record, The Divinity of Purpose, I tried to have a little bit of both, kind of the yin and the yang, because obviously there's still a cathartic, kind of therapeutic way of getting negative stuff out through the music, and not just the lyrics, but also the music. Like, when I'm writing the music, if I come up with a really aggressive riff, or a riff that gives me sort of a charge that you can't really put into words, but you just feel this charge from the tone of the riff. Mm-hmm. It's like it's almost this therapeutic experience. And then I want to have the right sort of poetry or words or story over it that complements the riffs. And so a lot of people they gravitate to our record Perseverance, because that was it was at a time in my life where I really needed to get over a lot of just various different stuff that was holding me back. And then that record blew up huge. It's still one of the biggest, like, hardcore crossover records of all time. So in a way, then the title was fitting. And then a lot of people actually would listen to the words, and I made the words be more discernible during that recording process. And so since 2002 until now, even though it's screaming and it's angry, I've tried to make the words discernible so you can hear exactly what I'm saying,
but also have it mean something. So it's not just about, you know, moshing and headbanging, but maybe people will actually read the lyrics and be interested in the narrative.
And that's really what I noticed, because a lot of times it's just kind of energy that's getting pushed out, and you just kind of feel the vibe and you don't really pay attention to the words. It could almost be like a fridge magnet of lyrics that you just hear, you know, in a lot of these other tracks. But with you, I was listening and I was like, yeah, that's really smart. What's the, you have a big track that's something with ashes in the name.
In ashes they shall reap.
In ashes they shall reap. And you're talking about like how sorrow is your own creation or something. Well, what is that lyric exactly?
All my sorrows of my own creation.
Right. And I'm like, that's fucking deep, actually, you know what I mean? Because we are in control of our own mental state. And like you're planting these seeds of like really intelligent philosophy in these like really cathartic and like songs that are driving a lot of emotion out. So I thought that was really fucking cool.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I feel like in anything in life, and a lot of stuff that you do has been very inspirational to me. Anything in life involves a certain amount of repetition, like anything that's rewarding. And so I've tried to make the tracks more and more repetitious as I've grown in my career and grown in my personal life. And it's most of the time it's because I have to perform them every night, and I want to like remind myself or be my own kind of drill sergeant, because I've been down a lot of destructive paths in my life, and I've been able to like I haven't touched booze in probably 12 years now, and it's still something I struggle with every day. And I get a lot of people hitting me up saying, you know, I'm listening to my Hatebreed record and I'm trying to do the right thing in my life. And if that's just one little example of times where people have said the music has this cyclical power where it helps them, and it's a little bit more than entertainment. And I think a lot of music that I like to listen to, it has a purpose. Like I'll listen to relaxing music in a meditation to go to sleep, or I'll listen to something heavy if I got to hit the treadmill. Like I have a video shoot coming up. So I got to lose like whatever, 15 pounds for the video shoot.
Well, if you need any help with that, you're talking to the right team over here.
Oh, exactly, bro. I got my krill oil. I got my, I just ordered a bunch of stuff. I started taking New Mood before, going to bed too, because I've been super like stressed, and that has helped me. And so basically, like certain types of music will have a purpose. Like, and I get on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook every day. Oh, I'm hitting the concrete. I got my Hatebreed in my headphones. I'm going to run 5 miles or whatever. And so, or I'm going to the gym. And so that's why we named the new album The Concrete Confessional, because it's this juxtaposition of something very hard and heavy and solid with something that's an admission of guilt or sharing something, sharing your pain, or sharing some of your shortcomings or whatever.
Yeah. You know, I think it's people, you know, what you're tapping into is these kind of primal frustrations that I think a lot of people have, you know, and I think your song, I Will Be Heard, that's the title, right? I'm not screwing that up. Yeah. So I was listening to that one too. And, you know, that's really expressing this kind of fundamental human frustration, this feeling like your voice is being lost in this sea and no one's really paying attention, you know? So, and it's like giving this voice, not only with the energy and the tone and the riffs and everything that's going along with the song, but also the lyrics are just like, it's an experience that allows people to be like, yeah, this guy's expressing exactly how I feel. I feel like my voice doesn't matter. And then you're standing up and saying like, no, like wipe your fucking tears out of your eyes, you know, dry off your blood and go get it, you know, but you're packaging it in this way that's reaching such a wider swath of audience. I mean, your audience isn't listening to Tony Robbins, you know, they're not going to be reached by the Hawaiian flute player, you know, they got to be reached by your type of, you know, your music in your way. And I think that's so key, is to not expect everybody to find their inspiration from the same sources, you know?
Well, that's awesome that you noticed that. And I always felt like metal and hardcore and punk rock music had this kind of aimless negativity. And I thought,
agreed. Yeah.
How are we gonna, when we're not, you know, 17 going to heavy metal and punk rock and hardcore shows, how is this going to be timeless and resonate with people more so? Like, sure, some of those negative records that have maybe address certain political issues, they're timeless in a way where now you could say like Megadeth Holy Wars. If you read those lyrics now, you could say, wow, that could be about what's happening in various different places over the world. But still 30 years later or whatever, we haven't really done much. But what can you do every day? You can better yourself, right? You can be a more connected person. If you're a parent, you could be a better parent. If you're a son, you could be a better son. If you're a grandson, you could be a better grandson. So I really said, okay, we can talk about world issues. We can talk about the horrible things in life, racism and poverty and all that stuff. But it really has to start with yourself, right? You can't do better unless you know better. And so I was hoping that was going to be something that could be a theme on all of our records. And it still is. I mean, that record came out in 2002, but this new one, again, I got to give a cheap plug here. The Concrete Confessional. Hopefully it's going to come out in the second Friday in May. There are some more like anthems like that track, which are saying like, start with yourself. You can't instantly take on the world, but you can take on yourself, which is often your worst enemy.
Yeah. I mean, as my favorite shaman down in the jungle, Don Howard, says, in order to be of service, you have to be fit for service. Like, you don't even worry about these other world problems you're trying to solve if you're unstable yourself, because you very well might do more harm than good. You might get in a position where you start being able to have a bit of influence, and then if you're a cracked vessel, all the water they pour in is just going to leak out. You gotta shore up who you are, become fit for service, and then apply yourself to be fit to be of service. And I think a lot of people get that twisted. They just throw themselves into something else without fixing themselves first.
I couldn't agree more. And I think there's a lot of people out there that just need to be pointed in a new direction. And sometimes music can be that compass. And that's why I always say, like, if I could be even that on a tiny, tiny level, like a speck of sand in the ocean of music out there, if I can be a little bit of a compass, then I feel like there's just more of a purpose. And I feel like everyone is connected, and music is something that's a universal language. To me, music is more powerful than religion, more powerful than politics or any of the other stuff that kind of influences our lives. And I really feel that we are all connected in this weird way. Like, I knew one day I would have a conversation with you. The first time I heard about you and I looked into your company, and I knew that was going to happen. I didn't rush into it. Even today, I didn't even know that the podcast was with you. I just heard that I was going to be able to do the On It podcast. And I thought, that's so funny how this is working out, because I use your products. I've heard you recently on a bunch of other podcasts, and I'm a fan of what you do, and I respect you immensely. And so when you walked onto the screen, I was like, this is just crazy. But this type of stuff happens everywhere, all over the earth. I've been in Muslim countries. I've been in South America. I've been all over Europe, Russia, and everyone is connected, yet somehow we are, less accepting of all these different types of lifestyles and things. And right now I feel like music is going to be that big change that we see coming forward. I mean, especially now that podcasting is a way to get your music out, and there's different forms of media, social media, that we're seeing this massive change, and hopefully it's going to bring people together.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that cuts through all the barriers. You're listening to a song together, and it creates this kind of environment where you're all part of the same team for once, like and whatever you are, you're at that concert, and that energy starts flowing. All of a sudden, all of these borders and all of these ideas, all this separation starts to leave, and you get in this sort of trance, with the music. I think it's one of the unique things, one of the unique compasses for humans. And I think we obviously listen to a lot of music, but I think everything involved in it, I think making music, dancing to music, listening to music can be a very sacred thing as well as just fun, and that's what I've been trying to explore as well. Like, the ability, all right, maybe you have trouble meditating, but have you tried playing the drums? Because if you're playing the drums or even playing the flute, I play the Native American flute. If you're playing that well, then your mind is free of thoughts, and it's a way to meditate through movement. If you're allowing yourself to dance freely, then you're doing the same thing as meditating. Like, it doesn't always mean sitting on a cushion and lighting incense. It just means getting out of your head for a minute, and that's that presence that you can get from that is a little paradise.
I totally agree. And you're in the now. And It's interesting, when before the internet, we played a show somewhere in Eastern Europe, and then and just watching a reaction, seeing someone when the riff hits them and the drums hit them, and seeing their face and them literally losing control of their body. And I'm looking out at this crowd of like maybe 2,000-3,000 kids, and they're all losing their minds. They're going crazy in this tribal, primal, just massive pit of energy, right? And then you go to Indonesia, and they do the exact same thing. And I say music is like the ultimate equalizer. It's the ultimate language, because you can't, if you're really true to yourself and you're really your authentic self, you're just going to have that reaction to the music however it makes you feel. You're not going to say, oh, well, this blog didn't like this record, so I'm not going to have that reaction. It's just sometimes it speaks to you, and you have to dance, you have to move, you have to bang your head or whatever. And I think that's the beauty of it to me.
Yeah. I think it's weird when people, they get so weird about music. They're like, I only listen to this underground off the fucking, like they like try to get their ego involved with music, and like, oh, no, I don't listen to that type of music. Like, try it, like see how it affects you when you get your mind out of the way. You're not supposed to consume music with your ego and your mind. You're supposed to consume it with your entire body, so like, see how you feel, like maybe you haven't listened to a lot of metal before, and you have something in your head that says you don't like it. Well, download some Hatebreed tracks, like go to the gym, see how you feel, and then pick up the Hawaiian flute and go out on a nice day and ride around in your boat and listen to that. Like, just see how it makes you feel. Don't leave these judgments and allow them to rule your life. Just let it be consumed by your whole body.
And have your taste be your taste, right? Like, if you don't like tomatoes, I say this all the time. If you don't like tomatoes, you don't go you just don't order them at the restaurant, or you just don't have them in your food. You don't go on a message board somewhere and go, yo, fuck tomatoes, stop eating tomatoes.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very good point. And then, if there's a special tomato that comes out, like you're in Italy and they make this amazing bruschetta, just give it another try. Like maybe it won't be so bad. Like maybe your taste was based upon a thought that was applicable only to a certain time and a certain type of tomato. Like, don't generalize. There may be other shit that's delicious.
Totally. And there comes a time too where you have to realize that you're a fan. And I say this to a lot of haters, because I come into contact with a lot of haters. And so someone called me on my own shit about avocados. Interestingly enough, they said, you know what, dude, you're a fan of avocados and you don't even fucking know. And I was like, really? And then, so one day I went back and I revisited it, and I took like one of those wasa breads. You ever have those? And I sliced a nice ripe avocado, put it on a wasa bread, put some Louisiana hot sauce on it, a little salt and pepper. That was the best shit I ever ate. And I was a hater all this time, and I didn't even know it.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah, I think, you find that a lot. You meet somebody and they'll tell you something preposterous, like, I hate sushi. And I'm like, maybe
that's
you do.
When you go, bitch, you're a fan.
Maybe you do, or maybe you just haven't got some good shit. Let's go get something good.
You just are a fan, but you don't know it yet. A lot of times I say that about heavy metal. Like, people go, really? You're still into hardcore and heavy metal? Oh, like if this guy was telling me, I was into hardcore and punk rock when I was like 15. I was like, look, you're still a fan. You just don't know it. What happens is life, especially with music, life takes over. And yet, like me, I had my daughter when I was young. So now that she's older, I'm able to go back and I have more time. I rediscover the vinyl. I open it up. I smell it. I put it on the turntable. And so you can rediscover things. It's not like you have to live by these standards and these rules. I always tell people, check it out. Go listen to Exodus, Testament, Slayer, Madball, Agnostic Front. There's so much good hardcore and metal out there. The guys that were doing it 20, 30 years ago, a lot of them are still doing it, and it's even better now.
Yeah, people think that you have to grow up or some stupid thing like that, like, oh, this was, like, it would be good for all of these politicians to, like, I would trust them way more if I saw them in a variety of different environments, just getting it. Just Trump at a Hatebreed concert, or Trump at a hip hop concert, probably even better. Or fucking salsaing down in Calle Ocho in Miami or something. Like, if you would just like loosen the fuck up, you know, like all these people, just allow yourself the freedom to not be judging yourself and not be projecting, just being, man, just experiencing all of it. That's what life's about.
Loud amps in the face is so good. Like, people don't know. Like, I say, go buy a guitar. Go, because my podcast is very music business based, and people will say, I don't have someone to jam with in my area, or I don't have a venue nearby, or I don't have a big music store where I can go get. That's all right. Go on Amazon, whatever. Get a little like Marshall half stack. Get a cheap guitar. Crank it up to 11. Write your own riffs. It doesn't have to be like, you go, like, not everybody who starts a supplement company is gonna get to the level of on it. You know what I mean? Yeah. But if you're really passionate about something, if you're really into something, some sort of product that makes you feel great, that you know that it's gonna make other people feel great, don't not do it because some idiot is telling you, oh, that's impossible. No, you have to try to do it. So I tell all these like aspiring musicians, and I tell a lot of people who are in local bands and regional bands, I'm like, just put a loud amp in the face. And then when you get guys that you could actually jam with, that you could vibe off of, it's like building a house. You're going to, all of a sudden you got this cool addition, and then you can just keep building and building and building. And that's a really cool thing about music, is that it's collaborative, right? You can, some drummer might come in and change the whole dynamic and make it amazing. But it's just important to surround yourself with people who are of like minds. Yeah,
no doubt. And I think people there's so much judgment about playing music and dancing, and you know, like it's become like such a this kind of American Idol culture where you're expecting everybody to just shit on you if you're not fucking amazing. But really, it's just cool to cut loose and let it rip, you know, whether it's movement or whether it's playing a tune. And if you're the guy who's shitting on people for expressing themselves in that way, like, definitely stop it, you know, because it's just, it really, if you stifle that kind of, that voice in somebody, you're a dickhead, you know, like, just don't do it. Like, appreciate the fact, anytime someone's getting it, no matter how the skill is, it's magical. Like, if they're out of their body, if they're out of their mind, and they're just getting it, like, I don't care what it sounds like. I'm a fan. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to watch, you know, and obviously it's really cool when you see someone excellent who's just in the groove and getting it. That's another special thing, but it doesn't matter. Like, you could be just you could be a dude on the street playing on your, you know, your plastic little bottle. And if you're getting it, you know, I'm going to fucking sit down and I'm going to pay attention, because that's magic.
I agree. Like, I had an argument about this guy, Future. Someone was telling me, I had Kimbo on my show. Mm-hmm. And so Kimbo was telling me about his walkout song. I showed him like the Hatebreed mosh pit, and I'm like, you know, check it out. And he couldn't believe it. His mind was blown that people do that to music, right? And I said, who's your walkout song going to be? And he's like, oh, it's this guy, Future. The song's Fuck Up Some Commas. And at first listen, I was like, this guy's mumbling. What is he talking about? Like, I was being a hater. And then I sat there and I just let myself, my authentic self, actually take in the song, Fuck Up Some Commas. And I thought about Kimbo, and I'm like, yeah, it's so simplistically beautiful. Like, the guy is trying to he's turning, I think in the song he says he's turning like 1,000 into 10,000, 10,000 into 100,000. And I thought, yeah, it's, in a weird way, it's like a genius. And that's what Kimbo wanted to do, right? And that's what he's been able to do. His walkout song is exactly what he's been able to do. He's taking his persona, his authentic self, and made it marketable enough where 2 million fucking people come out. And I called that fight, I got to say, on my podcast. You
said it was going to be the worst fight ever.
No, I said it was going to be Dada. I was like, I don't know why anybody's not talking about you taking on Dada. And they couldn't admit to it at that time, but then like 2 weeks later, they announced it was going to be Dada, because I was like, that would be great for those two. But yeah, it didn't turn out to be. Actually, non-MMA fans thought it was the greatest thing ever. Real MMA fans, like, this is what's happening in MMA. It's like a similar thing is happening in music. You have elitists. Mm-hmm. So like a Kimbo Dada fight is viewed as like
like a freak show or something. Yeah.
Yes, like it's viewed in how like a hipster would view like Insane Clown Posse. Like they think it's less, even though Insane Clown Posse selling millions of records. They make their own merchandise. They're entrepreneurs. They're doing their thing. They're handling their business, and they're getting paid, and they're loving every minute of it. That's what Kimbo's doing. Yeah,
I didn't get to see the fight. I just heard that it wasn't great. But again, that's from big MMA fans that I heard that. I'm a huge Kimbo fan myself, especially from the early days. I remember there was like a watershed moment for me in my life because I've taken martial arts my whole life, and you know, I'm not a really skilled fighter, but I had a good offensive game. You know, I could generate a lot of power since I was doing it since I was literally like 3 years old. And so I always had this kind of belief that if I hit somebody just right, you know, I could win that fight. You know, I probably would lose to it. I knew I would lose to a bunch of people, but if I hit them just right, I would take them down. And I watched this Kimbo fight, you know, one of those backyard fights where he drops his hands and he's fighting this giant guy. He drops his hands and he goes, "Come on, hit me," and just drops his hands. The dude just throws this huge hook, cracks him in the head. And Kimbo doesn't even flinch, like not like even a fly landed on him. And that terrified me. Like I literally had nightmares for a while because I realized I could punch Kimbo in the head as hard as I could or kick him as hard as I could, and it wouldn't matter. Like it literally wouldn't matter. So it was this kind of like reflection of my own personal power that I got to sit back. And so Kimbo definitely taught me a lesson when I was in my early 20s.
Yeah, and think about how much exposure he had at being one of the first YouTube stars, and he still generates interest. And so I just see it in a different way. I just see it as like, well, think about all these guys that were on the undercard or that were fighting on the, you know, the early fights that people saw. You know, he created this whole huge business. It was a huge sold out gate. All these local fighters in Houston got a fight. Like, people are saying, oh, it set the MMA world back 10 years. Will that be like me saying like some group sets music back 10 years? Like how does it brings more eyes on it? And yeah, it wasn't the best show of stamina. Obviously you need to be in fighting shape. You can't be fatigued to the point where you might actually die. Like I think the guy Dada almost had a heart attack or did have a heart attack. I don't know for sure. Don't quote me on that. So yeah, you don't want to be doing any sport if you're not physically fit enough, right? Like that's what they say. Don't even do an exercise tape if you're not you know, consulting a doctor at least first. But he passed his medicals, right? How they wouldn't have let him fight otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get to see it, but I agree with you. I mean, I think it's the same thing as tomatoes. Like, stop talking shit. You could have changed the channel at any point. You know, like this isn't a Saw movie. You know, you're not held down and forced to watch this. There's plenty of, like, just be grateful for that programming that you didn't change and that you got to talk to your friends about. You know, maybe you had more fun talking about what a bad fight it was than you didn't. But regardless, be grateful for that. Like, be grateful that was put out in the world. And just leave it at that, you know? Like,
exactly. Like if there was a young rock band and they got offered a Nickelback tour, like Nickelback is like, to me, I heard a bunch of their songs. I'm like, why does everybody shit on this band? The songs are not bad at all. Like, what is it that they're this easy target? But if you were a young rock band and they said, you're going to play sold out arenas every night with Nickelback, you'd be a damn fool not to take that tour. Just like if you were a good looking, charismatic fighter who was actually very talented, if you were on the undercard of a Kimbo Slice main event, you better take that opportunity because you need those eyes on your product.
Totally. Yeah, I think it all ties together. It all ties together in the end. Well, Jamey, this was a lot of fun, man. We'll have to do this again another time. Maybe I'll jump on your podcast and we'll keep talking.
I would
Beautiful,
love that.
man.
Thank you so much, man.
Well, enjoy the fights this weekend. Everybody look out for the new Hatebreed album coming out in May. I'm sure it's going to be sick. Download some of the old tracks. It's worth it. I'm into it. I'm a fan. And appreciate what you stand for and everything you do, man.
Right back at you, man. And if anybody wants to check out my podcast, it's soundcloud.com/Jamey Jasta, Jamey.
Cool. And what's your social in case people want to follow you?
I'm on Twitter at Jamey Jasta, JameyJasta, and JameyJasta.com.
Beautiful. Good chatting with you, man. I'll get your contact info. We'll keep in touch.
For sure. I'd love that. Thanks, man.
All right. Take care, Jamey.
You too.